It began on a Tuesday morning, so ordinary it could have belonged to any suburban household in America. I was standing on the front porch of our home in Ridgepine Heights, barefoot in slippers, cradling a warm mug of coffee, and watching a pair of squirrels argue over an acorn. The sky was a soft blue, the air smelled of pine and fresh-cut grass, and the world felt quiet until it wasn't. In the space of a heartbeat, a man in tactical khakis stepped into our driveway, pulled a bright yellow taser from his belt, and fired it directly at my wife. Yes, at my wife. What the man didn't know, what he couldn't have imagined, was that she was once the commanding officer of a covert military reconnaissance unit known only in unclassified files as Echo 7. Her name was Dana Rios, and she wasn't caught off guard. Not for a second. The red laser beam that lit her chest didn't faze her. She didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. She simply let herself drop, as if hit and stayed there, still. I, on the other hand, screamed so loud I scared the neighbor's dog 3 doors down. One moment we'd been arguing about charcoal for the weekend barbecue. The next, she was on the ground, and the man with the badge, well, not a real badge, was shouting into a walkie-talkie like he was leading a raid in Kabul. 6 months ago, Dana and I moved into Ridgepine Heights. We were drawn by a glossy flyer promising safety, serenity, and family-centered values. What we didn't know what they didn't print was that this place was ruled by a power-drunk homeowners association that operated like a private military junta. The lawns were pristine, trimmed to the inch like parade grounds. The houses? Identical, neat, sterile. Step even an inch outside the invisible line, and the HOA came knocking. Our first run-in came the morning after Dana parked her matte black Jeep, an old but restored military model, half an inch past our concrete driveway. Just the edge of one tire brushed against the grass. The next morning, we received a citation that looked like it had been printed on Department of Defense letterhead. I laughed. Dana didn't. She scanned the document, opened a folder on her laptop labeled Ridgepine Nonsense, and filed it away without a word. Then there was the HOA President Clarissa Hensley, or, as Dana called her, the Duchess of Clipboards. Always in pastels, always carrying a binder, always frowning. Clarissa didn't like Dana. Claimed she gave off aggressive energy and masculine intimidation. Dana just smiled, adjusted her torque wrench, and went back to fine-tuning the Jeep suspension. That's when it escalated. The HOA introduced the Ridgepine Civil Order Division 5 self-appointed men with shaved heads, surplus camo pants, and custom polos that read Safety Operations. Fake badges. Flashlights the size of crowbars. I once saw one of them practice batting techniques behind a mailbox cluster. They carried pepper spray, citation pads, and egos large enough to float. Dana watched them like she used to observe insurgents during briefings, calm, curious, and unshaken. She started jogging the perimeter more often. She ran fiber optic cable through the attic. She began asking questions, quiet ones about surveillance, power grids, and property law. When I asked what she was up to, she just smiled and said, "They're not ready yet." I didn't press. Meanwhile, the civil order goons got bolder. They put cameras on stop signs. They fined children for drawing chalk rainbows. They issued a $75 citation to an elderly woman for having a gnome with a rude hand gesture. I caught one of them looking into our living room window one night. Dana opened the door, stared him down, and asked, "You want to test your pepper spray against someone who's been tear-gassed in 3 continents?" He left without a word. Then came the 4th of July barbecue. Dana parked the Jeep beneath the HOA welcome sign. As expected, the civil order crew showed up, dressed like they were ready to breach a compound. One of them even had a GoPro. They approached with stern faces and citation books. Dana stood beside her Jeep. When one barked a warning, she replied simply, "You're welcome to try." And try they did. That's when he pulled the taser. That's when Dana dropped. And that's when everything changed. Red laser dots suddenly flickered across the civil order officer's chest from hedges, rooftops, alleyways. Dana's old team, silent, precise, and invisible, had been watching for days. Their optics were steady. Their aim true. They were here, and they weren't bluffing. Dana lay on the ground, smirked, and said to the shocked officer, You call that a stun? I've been zapped harder brushing my teeth. She stood up, brushed herself off, and handed me a thick binder. Then she faced the crowd that had gathered. My name is Dana Rios, she said. Every action by this HOA has been documented: false citations, privacy violations, harassment, unauthorized surveillance. Today was the final piece. From the crowd, a man in a blue suit stepped forward, flashing a badge. I'm Agent Matthew Conroy, Department of Justice, Civil Enforcement Division. We've been monitoring Ridgepine since February. Today confirms everything. The man who fired the taser was arrested on the spot. His partner tried to object, but Agent Conroy stopped him cold. Impersonating law enforcement is a federal offense. Clarissa Hensley arrived minutes later, flanked by two board members in matching khakis and horrified expressions. She tried to wave everything off as a private matter, a neighborhood misunderstanding. Agent Conroy stared at her. Your HOA charter expired 16 months ago. Every fine collected since then is illegal. That's not privateer, it's criminal. She turned ghost white. Dana stepped forward and handed over a USB stick. Emails, financial records, internal memos. You'll find line items for body armor, drone surveillance, and something called behavior correction training. I also recommend looking into the $14,000 spent on tactical morale gear. Clarissa didn't respond. She couldn't. Federal agents took her into custody, flanked by two marshals. Her pastel sweater was no shield against the weight of justice. By dusk, the Civil Order Division was disbanded. The cameras came down. Citations were declared void. The community was quiet too quiet. Jim, the retired mechanic across the street, came by with tears in his eyes. He'd been afraid he'd have to sell his vintage Mustang to cover HOA fines. Now, he hugged Dana like she'd saved his life. In a way, she had. A week later, Ridgepine Heights held an emergency community meeting. Dana was nominated to lead the new HOA board. She accepted, reluctantly. Her first act? Shred the rule book. Her second? Ban all fines, patrols, and vests with fake authority. Her third? Replace the HOA's motto of order through compliance with a new one: respect, transparency, trust. Before we left the meeting, Dana turned and addressed the group. And if anyone sees a clipboard labeled Civil Order Division, do the neighborhood a favor and toss it into the nearest fire pit. Laughter erupted real, loud, and free. Dana went back to jogging the perimeter, earbuds in, eyes sharp. Her old team had long since melted into the background, but I knew they were still around. Not in uniform, not visible, but watching, quietly, as they always did. She wasn't just my wife. She was a patient storm, a tactical reckoning, the calm dismantling of everything corrupt. And when injustice fired first, she didn't just fire back, she dismantled the weapon, the hand that held it, and the false authority behind it. If there's one thing Ridgepine learned, it's this. Tyranny dressed in cardigans and clipboards is still tyranny. And Dana Rios doesn't flinch. She waits, and then she ends it,